All right, so today we're going to be working the stabilizing muscles in the shoulders and the hips. I know when I miss these, my body doesn't feel quite as good. I always try and include them some, but sometimes I miss them. Sometimes I don't do them as often as I should, and I start to feel it in my shoulders and my hips. They are things that are muscles that a lot of people don't even know exist, and I think that's a lot of times why people think, oh, working out I feel sore, my joints start to click. I've heard that a lot where people in their bench press feel like, oh, my messes up my shoulder, when really what's happening is their stabilizing muscles are not strong enough to do the movement they're trying to do. So I want to help people be able to accomplish their workout and be happy, healthy, keep moving, and have strong muscles in both their primary moving muscles and their stabilizing muscles to keep their joints healthy. So what we're going to start with is using a resistance band. I'm using a tube band for an exercise called a face pull. So right now I'm having mic problems. Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me okay. I know it's probably going to sound a little bit different today. So for a face pull, this is working the posterior deltoid in the back of that shoulder, and then these muscles between the shoulder blades and some of that so working that rotator cuff in the back as well. So for this, I'm going to attach the band right about shoulder height, and I'm going to let my hands pull towards the front. Now from here, I'm going to pull up to my face level. So I'm not pulling down here like a row. So down here, I'm engaging much more of the lats, because those muscles pull like this and like this. So to negate those muscles, I'm pulling my arms up, because that's the opposite direction of the lats, so it makes it so I can't use my lats to actually control this movement or create this movement. So this way I'm using all these small stabilizing muscles in the back of my arms and shoulder, or back of my shoulders and shoulder blades. So this works a lot of these smaller stabilizing muscles, so it doesn't take very much weight to actually do this, or much resistance. So I'm pulling up to my face into what's called external rotation. This is internal rotation. This is external rotation. So I'm pulling up into that external rotation where I'm engaging that rotator cuff, and I'm pulling my shoulder blades back to work that posterior deltoid. This is a great exercise for all those stabilizing muscles in the back of your shoulder. Now it doesn't take a whole lot of weight to do a great workout on this, so it maybe doesn't look as impressive because the weights are small. You might be using a small dumbbell or a light resistance band, but you'll feel the difference. I know I feel so much better in my shoulders. I used to have a little bit of clicking in the front of my shoulder, and that's gone away the more I've been doing these exercises. So doing that face pull really helps with that. Hold that ball and socket. So imagine this is my shoulder right here. So normally it goes like this, and if it's slipping around, then they'll cause that click. But these muscles help hold that secure in the socket. So that's why I think it's really important to keep these muscles strong and healthy, because as everything else trying to pull it out of socket gets stronger, we need to strengthen the muscles that hold it into socket. Now, the next exercise is for the hips. This is working the glute med, which is like the deltoids of the hip. So A lot of people know about working their shoulder, those deltoid muscles up here, because they're really visible. You can see it in your shoulders. But this muscle, just as important, but you don't really see it in how your physique is built up, but you do see it in how people walk. So if you ever see people sort of shuffling or swinging their legs like this, where their hips kind of wobble, that's because this muscle can get a little too weak. Also, you might feel this is grinding in your knee if this is a little too weak. So for this, I'm going to use an ankle cuff and attach the band down low, about a little bit lower than knee level. And I'm going to do the ankle cuff around my outside leg. So from here, stepping to where the band is pulling me tight, or pulling tight, and then lifting up to the side. So I should feel this right here in the side of my hip. Now, important thing, I don't want to lean as I do this, because then I'm not really working that glute med, this muscle right in here. Now, if you want to, if the band is too much, you could just do this with only leg weight. We used to do that in martial arts, where you lift up your leg and hold it out, and then back down. And trust me, that really starts to burn in here. And same thing on the other side. This is one of those muscles, though, that you don't notice until it's not working correctly, and then suddenly you can have back pain, you can have knee pain, and you don't realize it's coming from your hip. You know, I haven't been doing these as much as I probably should have. I'm starting to notice, especially in my hips, I feel soreness and discomfort that radiates up, where I'm having a little bit more of that grinding feeling. So I'm definitely going to start including these more in my routine. I've gotten out of the habit of doing them, so I got to make sure I keep going even when it feels like they're strong, because that's how they stay strong, is by continuing to work them and maintain that muscle. That's something I think is so important, is maintaining your muscle strength. Now, so if you're working out, that's great. If you're not working out, today is the best time to start. Don't just let it go and say, oh, I'm never going to be a bodybuilder, I'm never going to be a competitive athlete. Because if you train doing resistance training, you can keep your muscles healthy, where you are able to live and thrive. And that's really what I want for people, is not to be in pain, not to be crippled or not be able to move the way they want to, where they can be 40, 50, 60, 70 and still up and moving. So we want to maintain healthy muscles, whether you're going for physique and being a bodybuilder and athlete, or if you just want to live a healthy, thriving life. This is so important to start today. And if I could just leave you with one message, that's what I would really say is start today. If you're not doing it, start. It doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be insane weights, but every little bit adds up. That's one of the reasons I love bands, is they're so easy to start with. Doesn't require a ton of equipment. They're inexpensive. They're a great intro product to start with, where you can just use a set of bands, use the door anchor that they come with, and start doing some exercises, getting those muscles to start responding to that resistance. And switching to the other side. I've heard some people say bands don't work, but bands work a whole lot better than doing nothing. Turns out, nothing is worse than pretty much anything else you can do. So bands have their limitations. They are a little bit tricky to set up on certain exercises, but they still work great for exercises like this, where you're building that stability in the hip. They can work a lot like cables can. So exercises that work well as cable exercises, bands can do a lot of those just as effectively. Just thought about this. I have two ankle cuffs. Why do I keep switching the ankle cuff? So I'm just going to put a second one on to make it easier to switch between. So, probably could have done that at the first set rather than the third, but oh well. So on all these exercises, I'm trying to do 3 sets to promote some muscle growth in these exercises. Now, and this is important, I don't want to pull narrow with my hands. I want to try and have my hands wide out here where I'm pulling my elbows back. So my elbows aren't in, my elbows pull back into that wide position, because that it's going to enable that posterior deltoid to fire more effectively, or to activate more effectively. A lot of people don't know the posterior deltoid is actually a stabilizing muscle for the shoulder. It's an external rotator of the shoulder. So the muscles that pull in and down, you've got your pecs and your lats, which are really big muscles. And then to counter that, the muscles that pull into external rotation are the teres minor and the posterior deltoid. These smaller muscles back here are external rotators. So if we don't strengthen the smaller muscles, they're going to get completely overwhelmed by these large muscles of internal rotation. So we want to make sure both sides are strong. Imagine like a teeter-totter. You don't want it really heavy on one side, then really light on the other, because these muscles won't ever be able to turn on then. Now with this muscle, this gluteus medius, it's actually a very important muscle for stabilizing your hips, to stop your hips from tipping. So if you ever are feeling like your knee is grinding in your squats, when you're doing deep knee squats, it's usually this muscle is not stabilizing your hips effectively. And 12. So strengthening this is a great way of helping improve your knee, because if my hips rock this way, suddenly my knee is taking all that force and it's putting pressure on potentially my kneecap, and also all these structures on the inside of my knee, my MCL, my ACL, and my meniscus. So instead of my muscles doing the work, my ligament is having to take that, and that's no good. You want to keep your ligaments healthy and strong. We don't want those tearing or damaged. So now we're going to shift from stability exercises to doing some arm exercises. So we're going to shift to a bicep curl with resistance bands. For this, take one step towards the front to keep tension on the band the whole time. Go from a straight position. I should feel that tension pulling me down. I want my hands narrow. I want to try and widen them just a little bit. From here, so I'm at shoulder width or a little wider. I'm going to pull up to the front of my shoulders and then back out straight. Just feel that, working that bicep through the whole movement. Now if I need to, I can lean back to increase that tension a little bit. I'm trying to go out rather than down with my hands. And then the complement to that is we're going to do a kneeling shoulder press. Now the reason we do a kneeling one with the band instead of a standing shoulder press is because the bands can actually snap. I've done that before, where when you press up, the band overstretches and it can actually break. So that's why I do a kneeling one now. So kneeling right on top of the band, pushing up towards the ceiling, and back down. You should feel that tension all the way to the bottom of the movement. Trying to go out to the outsides of my shoulders. This is working the muscles in the back of my arm and tops of my shoulders. Working that deltoid. And going right back into bicep. I like doing these as a superset because we can go from one muscle to the next. A superset means we're working one side of the joint and then flipping around, working the other side of the joint and alternating between those two. Because that lets us get through a workout much faster while still getting high volume in, which, if you're not familiar, volume is how many times you repeated an exercise. So it lets us repeat an exercise more frequently. So with this, I'm trying to keep my elbows right at my sides. I'm not letting them drift forward where that shortens that bicep. I'm trying to keep them here and putting my hand out to the front. As if I bring them up like this, I'm actually shortening that bicep and limiting how much tension I feel in that muscle. And the more tension I feel, and the more tension you get into that muscle, the more that signal goes to grow. So as those muscle cells stretch, it triggers your biology to actually start pulling in nutrients, pulling in and adapting and growing. Make sure we're still going live. Sometimes it has a connection break. Go into that overhead press, working the muscles in the tops of my shoulders, backs of my arms. So this deltoid right here, that middle deltoid and front, and then the muscle in my tricep in the back of my arm. Trying to bend my elbows all the way down and then out straight. Keeping my hands wide. So I'm not tucking them in. They don't come together. They go straight up and straight down as much as I can. Trying to go for 12 reps. Last week, I did 11 reps. So I'm trying to increase that by 1 each week. So that way we're continuing to challenge the muscle each week, adding a little bit more reps or weight. For me, I prefer to do higher reps, so adding in 1 rep each week. Now it's important that I'm staying lean back in a bicep curl. I'm not using my hips to sort of swing. I'm staying in that position, pulling straight up and straight down without letting my body create momentum for me. Now, if you're liking these live streams and want to see more, I host my workouts on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you want to join me building strength, building muscle, then hit that subscribe button to be here live Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Now, if you can't be here live but are doing the workouts after, let me know in the comments what time works best for you. Oh. Now I'm really trying to get my arms to grow as much as possible. So to do that, I'm really adding sets for arms. So I'm going to try for 4 sets today. So this is our 4th set for bicep curl. So usually, whoa. Okay, it looks like we're back. We disconnected there for a second. So if you think about it as your body adds a 1/4 pound of muscle per week, let's say ballparking, somewhere around a 1/4 pound of muscle per week, then that's, imagine like a 1/4 pound patty of hamburger distributed through your whole body. Now, obviously, if you want your biceps to be bigger, you want that to be all right here. So to do that, we need to tell our body that's where you want the muscle to be built. To do that, we have to work the muscle more times to get more of that growth into that particular muscle. So doing a higher volume or more sets in that muscle, make that muscle work more often, it will cause your body to grow that muscle and prioritize it. So that's why we go after, if we're going after bigger arms, we want to make sure we repeat our arm exercises more often than our other exercises. Now, we don't want our other muscles to shrink, so we make sure we keep working them some to maintain their size. So to do that, I like to do 2 to 3 sets per workout of a muscle. And for growing a muscle, I like to do 4 or more sets per workout. I'm trying to not swing with my torso at all. And wow. All right, last set for our shoulders. So, you should feel that burning in the top of your shoulders by the end of this. It's that burning feeling, that fatigue in your muscle. So I'm trying to put my chest up, keeping my back straight, hands nice and wide, knees wide enough where I feel tension at the very bottom here pulling me down, and push straight up. Oh. Alright, so if you like these workouts and want to see more, hit that like button for me to let me know you want more content like this. I host these live streams on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Hope to see you there.